She was too thin, too pale, too quiet, and somehow, that made her the most powerful face in fashion. Kate Moss didn't arrive with a statement. She arrived like smoke, soft, cold, and impossible to hold on to. Her beauty was never loud. It was the kind that made people uncomfortable, and they loved her for it. She became the girl who looked like she hadn't eaten, hadn't slept, hadn't cared, and suddenly that look was everywhere. Heroin chic, that's what they called it. And Kate was its reluctant crown. She didn't create the trend. She just fit it too well. And once the world saw her hollow cheeks and haunted stare, they couldn't stop selling it. Designers chased her, magazines worshipped her, young girls copied her. And when things got dark, when the drugs came, when the headlines turned, no one asked if she was okay. Because deep down, they already knew. Photos leaked. She vanished. Then she came back. Not with an apology, but with more contracts than before. The fashion world called it resilience. The tabloids called it scandal. But what if it was just a girl crumbling in silence while everyone watched and cheered? This isn't a story about style. It's about survival and the cost of turning fragility into a global fantasy. You know her face, but you've never heard what it tried to hide. Before the covers, before the scandal, there was just a girl from Croydon. Kate Moss was born in 1974 in a working-class suburb south of London. She wasn't raised in glamour. Her father was an airline employee, her mother a bartender. The house was small, the noise constant, the love inconsistent. She was quiet, sharp, and never quite comfortable in her own skin. Even as a child, she carried a look in her eyes, like she was already watching everything from a step outside. When her parents divorced, she was just 13. The timing didn't seem to shake her, at least not on the surface. She'd already learned how to disappear in plain sight. At 14, she boarded a plane with her family heading to New York. Jet lagged, disinterested, hoodie pulled low. At JFK Airport, a scout from Storm Model Management spotted her. It sounds like a fairy tale, but this was not a girl with dreams of runways. She had acne. She was barely 5'7", no training, no ambition, no polish. But the camera didn't care. The camera saw something else, a kind of rawness that couldn't be manufactured. A beauty you didn't style. You just survived. Kate's first shoots weren't glamorous. She looked like a kid playing dress-up, and that was exactly the appeal. By 16, she was traveling alone for bookings. No chaperones, no protection. Fashion wanted her body, her mood, her silence. It didn't want her to speak. It just needed her to endure. And she did. In 1990, The Face published a photo series titled The Third Summer of Love. Shot in soft light, Kate lay topless in a field, hair tangled, gaze empty. She looked like a runaway, a child, a dream someone forgot to finish. It was provocative, it was intimate, and it launched a movement. The industry didn't see a teenager, it saw a symbol. But Kate? She was still trying to figure out how to breathe in rooms full of adults who made decisions about her body like it was fabric on a rack. She didn't know how to say no. She didn't know that she could. And by the time she did, the image had already taken on a life of its own. It wasn't supposed to work. She was too short, too shy, too strange. But fashion didn't just let Kate Moss in. It bent around her. Her ascent wasn't loud. It crept in, like her presence, quiet, unnerving, inevitable. By 1992, she was everywhere. Campaigns for Levi's, then Calvin Klein. The face of a new aesthetic, raw, minimal, and emotionally vacant. And then came the Calvin Klein moment. She was 18, paired with Mark Wahlberg, shot by Herb Ritz. No sparkle, no seduction, no posing. Just two bodies, bare, almost lifeless. Kate stared through the lens like she wasn't really there. That was the look. That was the point. It was supposed to be edgy, real. But Kate later admitted she cried for hours after the shoot. I felt ill. I didn't like it. I felt used. And yet, the campaign changed everything. It sold millions. It defined a decade. It cemented her as the face of something no one could quite explain, but everyone seemed to want. Suddenly, a new archetype was born. Not the glamazon, not the sex bomb, but the girl who looked like she hadn't eaten or slept or cared. Heroin chic. That's what they called it. And Kate? she became its unwilling queen. Designers chased the look. Photographers replicated the lighting, the silence, the hollowed eyes. But what they were really chasing was a feeling that beauty didn't have to be healthy, that it didn't have to be happy, that maybe it was even better if it wasn't. Grunge was rising, Nirvana, oversized flannel, a whole generation numbed by cynicism. And there, in the middle of it all, was a girl who looked like she'd just wandered in, said nothing, and stayed too long. "She's not acting sexy, she just is," one photographer said. "There's a sadness in her that feels true." That sadness became a product, an aesthetic, a billion-dollar brand. But no one asked Kate how it felt, because asking would break the spell. She wasn't being provocative. She was just surviving. And that, somehow, was the most fashionable thing in the world. Even the backlash fed the image. Politicians like Bill Clinton condemned the look. Health experts warned of its impact. Parents panicked. Teenagers imitated. And Kate? She stayed quiet, like she always did. She didn't fight the label, didn't defend it, didn't own it. And that made it harder to stop. The face on the billboard was haunting, and no one wanted to look away. The girl who once floated through fashion like a ghost was now being hunted like one. By the mid-90s, Kate Moss was no longer just a face. She was a symbol of fashion, of cool, of something deeper, darker. No one wanted to name out loud. Tabloids followed her to airports, hotel rooms, alleyways. Every cigarette, every stumble, every silence was documented. Her life was no longer hers, and yet she kept showing up, because that's what the job demanded. "I didn't have a voice back then," she later said. "I was young and scared, and I didn't know how to say no." She was booked on shoots where nudity was implied, expected, demanded. She was asked to express vulnerability, on cue, on camera, and the industry loved her for it. But none of it was performance. That was her. A teenager in a grown-up world, slowly unraveling while everyone applauded how real she looked. Photographers praised her for giving them emotion you couldn't fake. They didn't realize they were filming pain in real time. Kate began leaning on pills just to function. Valium to get through flights, alcohol to get through events, anything to quiet the noise in her head. Behind the cameras, she was anxious, dizzy, spiraling. In front of them, she was iconic. Then came Johnny Depp, the cool, brooding movie star. The man she once said was the only person who ever took care of me. They became fashion royalty and tabloid poison. Their love was intense, obsessive, volatile. Hotel rooms destroyed, fights behind closed doors. Moments of tenderness eclipsed by chaos. When they broke up, something inside her collapsed. "There's nobody that's ever really been able to take care of me," she later said. "Johnny did for a bit. I believed what he said, and that's what I missed when I left." After him, the spiral got worse. More drinking, more press, more whispers. And then, 2005, a grainy tabloid photo. Kate Moss in a studio, cutting lines of cocaine. The headline, "Cocaine Kate." It exploded. She lost campaigns with H&M, Chanel, Burberry. She was dropped by multiple brands in a matter of days. Her silence, once mysterious, now looked incriminating. The world turned on her, not because they were shocked, but because they finally had proof. The image that had sold so well was now used as evidence. But Kate didn't defend herself. She checked into rehab. Quietly. Alone. Friends say she barely spoke for weeks. It was the first time she stopped performing and started healing. The fall should have ended her. But something strange happened instead. Within a year, she was back, with more contracts than before. Alexander McQueen wore a shirt on the runway. "We love you, Kate." The fashion world, always addicted to contradiction, welcomed her back with open arms. Her fall became part of the myth, a twist in the story, the broken girl who never really broke. But the damage lingered. Every new photo came with baggage. Every silence now felt like a calculated move. Kate Moss had become more than a person. She was now a mirror, and people didn't like what they saw in it. Kate Moss didn't apologize. She didn't hold press conferences. She didn't sit for redemption interviews. She just returned, quieter, sharper, unapologetically still here. And somehow that was enough. The industry that once dropped her now raced to re-sign her. Burberry, Dior, Longchamp. She didn't just get her contracts back, she got better ones. Because now, she wasn't just the look. She was the survivor. Alexander McQueen said it best without saying a word. His "We love you, Kate" shirt wasn't about innocence. It was about endurance. She didn't deny what happened. She didn't explain it either. But her body came back stronger, her face older, her silence heavier. And in that space, something strange happened. Kate Moss became a kind of blueprint, not for how to be perfect, but for how to walk through fire and stay recognizably whole. In 2016, she launched her own modeling agency, not a glossy name-only front, an actual agency built to protect young talent. From the things no one protected her from. No casting couch, no pressure to starve, no pretending the look is worth more than the girl who wears it. She signed models who didn't fit the mold, and never wanted to. Girls with gaps in their teeth, bodies that looked lived in, and voices loud enough to say no. For once, Kate wasn't just the face of change, she was behind it. She started showing up, not just to fashion weeks, but to quiet places, interviews where she finally spoke, moments where she admitted she was scared, she was silenced, and she still didn't like being famous. In 2020, she said, "Clubbing is boring now." A small quote, but it hit like thunder. The girl who once defined reckless youth was now talking about meditation, tea, early nights, not because she had to, because she'd survived long enough to choose peace. Young models cite her as a reason they kept going, not because she was always right, but because she endured being wronged publicly and still got up. Cara Delevingne calls her the blueprint. Kaya Gerber calls her the reason I never wanted to be perfect. Even models far outside fashion's traditional scope, like Adwoa Aboa and Paloma Elsesser, cite Kate as proof that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's currency. She never became an activist, never held a microphone and condemned the system. She didn't need to. Her entire body of work, from the haunted stairs to the silent returns, was already a confession and a warning. Kate Moss never asked for this. Not the icon status, not the outrage, not the mythology. She never called herself a muse, never promised to represent a generation. And yet, that's exactly what we made her do. We took her silence and filled it with meaning. We took her fragility and called it strength, until it scared us. And then we blamed her for being too much of what we asked her to be. She became the girl who sold the dream and paid the price for how it made us feel. What's more dangerous? A culture that rewards collapse? Or a face that survives it? Kate Moss was never a cautionary tale. She was the system's reflection. Too profitable to protect. Too fragile to punish for long. Too powerful to ignore. And maybe that's the real story here. Not of drugs, or scandal, or cigarettes in bathroom stalls, but of a world that saw a girl coming undone and said, "Perfect, shoot that." She didn't talk much. She still doesn't. But maybe she doesn't need to, because her face, exhausted, elegant, blurred at the edges, already told us everything. That beauty can be dangerous. That fame is rarely kind. And that silence, when commodified, can echo louder than any scream. Kate Moss didn't ask to be the symbol of anything, but symbols don't get to choose.